Okay, I'm actually going to go ahead and get started. I know we've got a lot of people coming in right now, but we've got a lot of information to cover. So as people come in, those of you who are just now joining us, please make sure you have logged in, that you've signed in with the link either in the chat or use the QR code. I'll keep it up on the next couple of slides. It'll so that you can get logged in. And I'll also remind halfway through. But I am Mrs. Hamrick. I am the counselor in charge of the junior information, and so I'm going to go through a lot of content today, so we're super glad that y'all are here. And I am going to be posting this presentation in CTLS after the presentation, so you'll have access to it. And I'm also recording this as well. One thing that I do want you guys to know is that if you have questions during the presentation, to please put them in the chat. We will not be answering them during the presentation, but what we're going to do is take all the questions and we're going to create a Q&A document, and we're going to post it in CTLS so that everyone can see those questions and answers later. And I've also activated a discussion board in our CTLS classroom, and you can post whatever questions you may have as well. And I'm happy to go through and any of us can answer your questions there. So we want to know what questions you have, and we want to be able to help answer. There's going to be a lot of information covered today, but we want to make sure that your questions are answered and that you also have this as a resource afterwards, because some of the pages, I may not go through every single little piece and every detail, but you'll be able to have it as a resource after the fact. Okay, so let's start by making sure you know who your counselor is. Hopefully you have at least heard their name before. So I am Mrs. Hamrick. Like I said, I serve the students at the end of the alphabet. So my SE through Z's, I see several of you guys here today. I'm super glad that y'all are here. And then, so let's go with Ms. Sachs, who is the beginning of the alphabet.
Hi guys, I've got the A, B, and C part of the alphabet, and I see lots of your smiling faces. So good to see you. We have really missed you guys, and we are super excited to be helping you thinking about your plans for after high school, which is a big part of what Ms. Hamrick's going to talk to you about today.
And Ms. De Silva is actually not able to be here today. She had another commitment, but Ms. De Silva, our department chair, she has D through HA. So those of you who are in those, that alphabet range will be assigned to her. We can't hear you, Ms. Shearstone. Well, you're not unmuted.
I should be. Can you hear me now?
Here you are. Now we can hear you.
Sorry, y'all. Hey, I'm Ms. Shearstone. Now you can hear my voice. How are y'all? I'm so excited to see you all today. I'm counselor, works with students HE through MCC, and look forward definitely to meeting with you and your parent during our junior advisement coming up later on this semester. So we'll get to hopefully get to know each other a little bit more personally. Look forward to it.
And I am Ms. Potts, and I have the students who fall in the last names of MCD through SC, and I see a lot of your all's faces. I'm so excited to see you all, but I'm Ms. Potts.
And Miss Von Lincoln is our intern. She's not with us today. I don't believe, I haven't seen her pop in, but she is also a counselor who will be able to help you guys. You may get to know her through different activities that she's doing. We're super excited to have her. She's a student at Georgia State University. We also have school social worker who is a part of our team, Ms. Kretzmer, and she is one of our integral members here at Pope High School. You may encounter her as well. She's also a trained counselor, so if you ever need anything, she's there to help as well. And then I will introduce Ms. Wolf.
Hello, I am Miss Wolf, and I am not a counselor here, but hopefully I will see all of you at some point, because when you come into the counseling office to make an appointment, ask a question, or visit one of the counselors, I will probably be the one to help you, and I look forward to welcoming you back in November.
All right, and then our last member of our team is Miss Squire. She is our records clerk. You don't always get to interact with her. Sometimes you might if you have some record keeping you need to take care of with her, but she is also in our office an integral part. And so that's our team. We also want to make sure that you are aware of our website. We did actually create a new website this year. Ms. Wolf did this for us, and you can see the link down there at the bottom, and we can put that into the chat. But we want you to know that we are here to meet with you virtually, as well as when some of you may be coming back face-to-face. We're going to find ways to make sure that you have access to us. We don't have that quite nailed down yet, but for now, we definitely are available through Zoom. If you go to the website, you can find out that information. We have a on-call counselor every day, so if you have an urgent need, you can pop on with that on-call counselor and we will help you that way. Or if you want to schedule a meeting with us, we're here. So we don't want you to think that we're just AWOL during COVID. We're definitely here and want to help. So some of the information we are going to cover today, our essential questions are, what is my post-secondary plan? You know, we're going to talk today about different options and things that you have available to you after you graduate from high school, because we want to make sure that you have the tools you need to figure that out for yourself. And then how do I put my post-secondary plan into action? So once you figure out what you might want to do, then how do you make it happen? Okay, so topics that we're going to cover today, we're going to definitely talk about Naviance. Hopefully you guys have been able to get logged into Naviance. We're going to talk about the different post-secondary options. What's available to you? How do you define those types of things? What training opportunities exist? A little bit about the difference between college admission versus graduation requirements. Those are different. A lot of times they're the same, but a lot of things are different. The college research and admission process. I know a lot of you probably have a lot of questions about that. We're going to talk about testing. We're going to talk about dual enrollment, financial aid, and Hope Scholarship. And then the basics of building a list, because we want to make sure if you're looking for colleges, we want to make sure you find a group of schools that fit you, not your friend, not your brother, not your mom and dad, but you. And then there is, at the end, a bridge law requirement survey that we'll have you do in Naviance. So that's kind of where we're going. Oh, and we are also going to talk a little bit about how COVID is impacting college admissions, because that has definitely had an impact on things. So let's first talk about Naviance, and it is a platform that obviously we've been using for a number of years now. It is a pretty powerful tool. If you haven't gotten in there and just explored it a little bit, I would definitely encourage you to do that. There's a lot of information about college and career planning, college searches, career searches. One feature that I really love to encourage people to get familiar with is the resume builder. This is going to be something we would encourage you to do now, leading up until your senior year, because when you start doing college applications or if you start looking for a job, they're going to want to know, well, what have you been involved in? What kind of activities have you done? What leadership activities have you held? So if you go ahead and start working on that now, you will thank yourself later. Getting that going is an important step, and it can be kind of tedious. So we also use it to communicate with you guys. I know this is one vehicle we use for getting your personal email addresses. So if you haven't updated your email address, please make sure you do that in Naviance sometime. You could do scholarship searches. We always get a lot of questions about scholarships. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation, but you can do scholarship searches. We post scholarships there that we receive in the counseling office. Fantastic, fantastic way to find scholarships. And then when you're a senior, a lot of your application processes and organization is going to take place in Naviance. So it's something we want you to be familiar with. So again, we want to make sure you know how to log in. Here's the website. Hopefully you've all done that based on doing the sign in that you saw in the beginning. But if you haven't had a chance to get logged in, please do that. We'll put the link in the chat again for you guys to see, and make sure you can get in there. If you're not able to, let us know, and somebody can help you. You can also get the link on the Pope High School website under menu, resources, and then the link to Naviance is right there. So if you ever forget the link, you can get it that way. So let's jump right into the different post-secondary options that are available to you. So apprenticeships and job training, that is an option that has been very neglected over the number of years. And this is a career field. This is a group of careers that has really been neglected. And we have a great need for people to go in these types of careers. So I'm going to talk about that and talk about kind of the things that you could look for if you think you might want to go straight into a career right out of high school. Some of you may be interested in doing military. Fantastic option, very well regarded, and give you some information about that. And then as far as different school options, college options, you've got specialty schools like Le Cordon Bleu or Paul Mitchell or Full Sail. There are a lot of colleges out there and program specialty schools that are designed to help train you to do a specific career. So we'll kind of touch on that. And then we'll also talk on technical colleges, 2-year and then 4-year colleges, and kind of the differences between those. So how do you even decide which of these pathways you want to go in? Let's look at that. Okay, so one way you can start figuring out a possible career is in Naviance. So again, we're going to be using this a lot today and talking about it. So in Naviance, you can go to the career tab up at the top, click on careers, and when that comes up, you're going to see a number of career assessments. I'm going to pop it out and make it a little bigger there. There are a number of career assessments you can take, so if you're still trying to figure things out, this is a fantastic grouping of career assessments you can do. They range from looking at your interests to your skills to your personality. So they each are going to do a career assessment looking at different things because there are different parts of you that will go into deciding what career is going to be the best fit. So each of these is going to give you something a little bit different and another aspect that could help you figure out a good career for yourself. Another great feature in Naviance is Road Trip Nation, which is a series of thousands and thousands of videos that they have collected. It's actually an outside organization that's done this, but videos of people in different careers and things like how did they choose their career? What negatives have they found? What positives? What leadership opportunities have they had? It's a lot of really good stuff, and I would encourage you to look through some of those videos. They're very encouraging and have some good positive things to say to students about going into different careers. Okay, so that's Naviance. And let's go to the next one that I want to talk about is U-Science, and we've touched on this in different lessons, but U-Science is one of my favorite career assessments. The counselors here know that this is one of my favorite tools. And each of you can have a free account. Usually it's about $30, but the state of Georgia has made this free to every every student in the state of Georgia. Go to uscience.com, click login, and then you're going to click create an account. And then you are going to have to put in an activation code. You can actually find that activation code in Naviance. If you go into About Me and then My Account, it is your nickname. We made your activation code your nickname so that you would have a way to get that access code. So I would encourage you all to do this. Now, it's a long assessment, and it focuses on your skills and abilities. It's going to feel very much like an IQ test. So for example, down at the bottom, you'll see the spatial visualization test. And what that particular test is they're saying, okay, pretend that square is a piece of paper and it's been folded up and we poke a hole in it. Where are all the holes when we unfold the paper? So it's assessing your ability to think spatially, mentally, not actually doing it by hand. And so that's just one of the types of questions that are series of tests that you're going to encounter. There's math, there's some reading stuff, there's series of numbers that you have to copy as quick as you can. So there's a lot of just really strange kind of things, and it's kind of interesting. So highly recommend you do that. Based on the results of that particular test, you're going to come up with some fantastic results. So here on the screen, you can see a couple of screenshots of what you will get. So the Serious Talent and Awesome Career Opportunities there is the splash screen that you're going to get. So it's going to talk about your aptitudes. What are your talents? What are your skills? What are your strengths? What do you have the aptitude to do? Okay. And then it's going to talk about your best fit careers based on your aptitudes. Also, it will give you a lot of really great terminology, some fantastic power verbs and words, adjectives that describe who you are, which can really be used for college essays, for resumes, You can provide that information to people who might be writing your recommendations. We counselors can actually access this, your results, so we can actually go in there. If we're trying to find that perfect word, we might be able to look here and find like strong communicator, team-oriented, collaborative, future focus. There's some fantastic phrases there that we could use. And the cool thing about career youth science is that it's taking not just your skills, but it also has an interest inventory built in as well. And so it takes both of the results there and it finds a good merge of the two pieces of information, because when you're looking for a career, you need to find something that you are interested in, but also what you're skilled at. And one of the things that I would encourage you guys to think about is not just looking for careers that you have exposure to, because one thing that we're realizing is that the amount of exposure you guys have had to a lot of careers is pretty low. And so one of the cool things about youth science is it's bringing to light careers that you may have skills for that you may have never even considered because you just don't know about them. You've never even heard of them. And so you don't know what they are. And so I want each of you to do this, to do youth science, to look at the careers and look at careers that you may not have ever heard of, because that might be your perfect career. It may be something that really is a good fit for you. And that's the ultimate goal, right? I mean, you go to college or you do training to ultimately do a career one day, and that's where you're going to be spending a lot of life. So I think a lot of focus gets a little out of whack a little bit, that we spend so much time talking about college, and forget that career is really where the focus needs to be, and let the college fall into place after. So youth science. I'll move on from that because I could talk about that forever. Okay, so let's jump into trades and apprenticeships. So some of you might be thinking about wanting to just be done with school and I want to get out there and I have a particular career I'm interested in, or you may not know, but you know that you want to do something and go ahead and start working. So here are just some examples of trades and careers that you can do out of high school. Apprenticeships are really a unique kind of training opportunity, because apprenticeships usually are on the job. You're learning how to do the job while you're doing the job. You're usually working underneath someone who's an expert, and they are usually paying you while you're learning. So instead of going to school and paying a lot of money and getting into debt to learn how to do a career, this type of a career you're actually doing it while you're learning and you're getting paid. Electrician, for example, there's an electrician apprenticeship that I'm very familiar with here in Georgia. And by the time you finish that apprenticeship, you're coming out of there with a starting salary in 60,000s, which is actually very good. Many kids who graduate from college may not be making a salary of $60,000. So it just goes to show you there are some fantastic career opportunities out there. And it doesn't have to be something for your college. So I want to encourage those of you who might be thinking of something like in the trade profession to look at this. And we do need people in these careers. So let me show you this video. This is Mike Rowe, and he's going to talk a little bit about the skills gap that we have and the importance of looking at trades.
Look, I've got nothing bad to say about a college education. Really. I have one. I wouldn't trade it for anything. And if you have the desire and the money to pay for a four-year degree, I say go for it. But look, we need to stop promoting higher education at the expense of every other form of learning. It's just crazy. It leads to unintended consequences. And right now we got a big one. It's called a skills gap. And the skills gap is bad news for anybody who's addicted to a paved road or electricity or indoor plumbing. Welders, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, steam fitters, pipe fitters, all across the country. There's shortages in these areas, even with unemployment going through the roof. It's crazy. 50 years ago, those jobs were critical. They still are. The problem is we just don't value them the way we used to. So we don't encourage people to pursue them. We're so focused on getting into the corner office, we forgot how to build a corner office. Look, I've got nothing bad to say.
So that's one of my favorite videos. I love Mike Rowe. I think he has a lot of really excellent things to say. If you are thinking this is the route that you want to go, please talk to your counselor. Connect with us. We'd love to talk to you about different opportunities that are out there. We've got some great resources to share. Let's talk about military academies. A lot of you may be looking at this as an option. I've listed the different military branches that you see up here. There's also the National Guard. And also military academies. I put military academies here. Military academies are colleges, but of course they're tied in with the military as well. So we just want to make sure that you have the resources that you need. We have recruiters that come to Pope. Not sure what that's going to look like with COVID this year, but of course you see them in the cafeteria. They love to talk to you. They're also available in different recruiting offices, and they are going to be your best source of information about military. They are always eager to talk to you. There are some great scholarship opportunities for students who are interested in going into the military even after you have finished your military stint, or if you go into college and want to be a part of the ROTC, a lot of times they have ways to help you pay for college as well. And then you can exit college and actually enter the military as an officer. One of the things that you would need to do if you think you want to do the military is take a test called the ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, I think is what it stands for. I might have gotten that one a little wrong, something like that. But it is a career assessment. Just like I was talking about U-Science, it's very similar to U-Science, actually. It has a lot of skills-based type questions. And it's not just for people who want to do military. We are planning to give the ASVAB in February. We always give it a couple of times a year. This year, probably just February, but we'll offer it for students who are interested in military, or if you just want to do a career assessment here at Pope, you can do that. There's no obligation. You don't have to join the military just because you do the ASVAB. But that is a great way to connect and figure out what careers you might want to do, whether it's a military career or not. Also, military academies, let me talk about that a little bit more. They are very, very competitive. Again, they are colleges. They are free. If you get admitted into a military academy, then you attend for free. Your tuition and everything is paid for. But then you are committing to be in the military for a certain number of years afterward. But when you enter the military, you are entering as a commissioned officer. So the process for military academy appointments starts early. If you are interested in that for a future year, please go ahead or for next year, please go ahead and reach out to your counselor about that. You have to get nominated by a state senator, by a representative, some political figure. There are certain people that can make those nominations, and you have to do applications to be nominated, and then from there be nominated, and then you can do your application to the military academy. So we'd love to talk to you about that. Okay. The rest of this presentation is really going to be focused mostly on college stuff, because this is one of the biggest topics that we deal with, and it's a lot of very detailed information. So I'm just going to leave the screen up just for a few minutes, few seconds, I guess, and I want you to just take a look. And some of these colleges you may have heard of. Many of them you probably have not. And I put a lot of different names up here because I want you to think about the fact that there are many, many, many ways to get training for the type of career that you might want to do. And so let's think about that. Keep an open mind, and let's talk about the different types of colleges out there. So let's talk technical schools at first. So technical colleges, trade schools, specialty schools, I kind of put these into one category because they're designed to help train you for a career, get out there and start working as quickly as possible. So different types of credentials you can get at these types of schools. A certificate, which is just a few months usually, a diploma, which is 1 to 2 years, or an associate's degree, which actually can serve as the first 2 years of your 4-year college degree. We'll talk about that in a minute. So you can earn usually any one of those or some of those at the different schools. Usually you have to have a high school diploma or a GED, and there's usually no GPA minimum for admission into these types of programs. They are usually going to want you to submit some sort of a placement test. There's a test called the AccuPlacer that you could take. SAT and ACT works as well, but AccuPlacer, basically it's designed to help them see, can you read, can you write, can you do some basic math, can you function in a career setting, and do you need remedial help in some of those subjects. Public technical colleges in Georgia, you can actually use something called the HOPE grant or the Zell Miller grant or the HOPE career grant. So when we're talking HOPE grants, we're talking about public college money. There's no GPA requirement for the grant money, HOPE grant money for the technical colleges in Georgia. If you're going for an associate's degree, that's where you're going to need to be eligible for Hope Scholarship if you're looking for Hope money for a degree. So if you hear degree, think Hope Scholarship, Zell Scholarship. If you hear certificate, diploma, think grant. Okay, specialty private schools, they're going to be tuition based. They may or may not accept any kind of Hope funds. They can be a little pricey, but they often will offer some sort of financial aid and scholarships, but just be aware and make sure you're looking at the funds and the prices for those. Some examples of types of programs: automotive technology, digital, cosmetology, that type of thing. Public schools that are nearby are Chat Tech, Gwinnett Tech, and then some examples of specialty schools like Paul Mitchell, I mentioned before, Le Cordon Bleu, Universal Technology Institute. So two-year colleges, community colleges, junior colleges, JUCOs, these are all terms that you may hear with this next category of colleges. Usually they are going to be offering associate's degrees. That's your two-year college degree, okay? Some people can begin a career after the completion of an associate's degree, or a lot of students will use that first 2 years to then transfer to a four-year college to complete what we call the bachelor's degree. I'll talk about that in a minute. So typically two-year colleges are going to want to see at least a 2.0 minimum core GPA. They are going to need some sort of a placement test, kind of like the technical colleges. And because we're talking degrees, public schools in Georgia, they're going to be able to award Hope and Zell scholarships for associate's degrees, but not those grants, because that's for technical colleges only. Private schools are going to have their own financial aid, and again, they may receive some Hope funds if they're Georgia colleges. Some program examples. So dental hygiene is one of those associate's degree programs that you can actually do for 2 years and then go out and start working. You can become a dental hygienist with that. Other programs that you may hear: English, general studies, history, business. A lot of times people, if they're going to get a four-year college degree somewhere else, they'll focus their first 2 years associates to then to match whatever bachelor's degree they're going to get later on. So some local or schools in Georgia that are considered two-year colleges: Perimeter College, part of Georgia State now, Georgia Highlands. This one I didn't know about until I started doing some research: Gupton Jones College of Funeral Services. So there's a college for people who want to work in funeral service. Andrew College and then Georgia Military College. Those are just a few examples. Okay, so four-year colleges, this is where most people end up spending the majority of their time focused. So at a four-year college, you can earn an associate's degree. At some, not all of them have associate's degrees, but some do. Bachelor's degree, that is the one that everybody thinks of as the four-year college degree. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Bachelor's degree is usually what people are looking for. After a bachelor's degree, if you want to continue your education, that's where you might get a master's degree, which is usually around 2 years, and then a doctoral degree can be 4 or more additional years. So depending on the type of program and type of career you want to do, you may have a lot more than 4 years beyond that, but that kind of breaks down the general types of degrees that you can get. Usually the minimum GPA, it's going to vary a lot depending on colleges, but usually it's around 2.5 or higher. Again, we're talking core GPA, the average about a 3.0. Most schools are going to require SAT or ACT, but some are test optional. We'll talk a little bit more about what is going on with test optional right now with COVID in a little bit. So at public colleges in the state of Georgia, you can get Hope Scholarship, Zell Miller Scholarship to help pay for your degrees, your bachelor's degree. And then private colleges, they're going to have their own financial aid. You can use some Hope funds at the private schools in Georgia. But here's something that I want all of you to know is that Hope does not transfer to out-of-state colleges. This is something that a lot of times people get confused and they think, oh, well, I can use Hope at a school outside of Georgia, right? And that's actually a very common myth that we hear. Hope is not going out of Georgia. The state of Georgia created the Hope Scholarship Program to keep kids in Georgia. Okay, so they don't want that money to go someplace else, right? So the reason people get confused by that is, out-of-state colleges may say, well, we will match Hope. We will give you the equivalent of Hope, or we will give you in-state tuition at our university. So those are things that sometimes people hear and they've twisted it to make it sound like they're getting Hope, but that's not exactly what they're talking about. Even some states have a scholarship called Hope Scholarship, but it's not the Georgia Hope Scholarship. If schools are competitive, meaning there are this many applicants and only this many spots, they're going to have to figure out a way to admit this many students. So if they've got all these people, they've got to figure out how to narrow that down. So that's when it becomes competitive, and that's where schools are going to be looking at something other than your test scores and your GPA. So essays, recommendations, what rigor you've presented, that kind of information can come into play. So and admission isn't always guaranteed if the minimums are met. So it could be that you meet the minimums, but there are a lot of people and you're being compared with a lot of people, and so you might not get in because of other factors. Okay, so I just listed some examples down there at the bottom. So let me talk just a little bit about graduation requirements versus admission requirements, because they aren't the same. Just because you graduate from Pope High School doesn't necessarily mean you've met all the requirements for admission into a particular college. So it's your responsibility to check that. So a four-year college is going to require, for example, if you look at the third bullet point there, 2 years of the same world language. But guess what? At Pope and in the state of Georgia, 2 years of the same foreign language is not required for a graduation. You have to have 3 credits in Career Tech, Fine Art, or Foreign Language. That's the requirement. But if you want to go to college, you have to have 2 years of the same language. It's very common for people to take 2 years of the same language. But if you don't know that, it could throw you off. So it's up to you to make sure that you know if there's some obscure requirement that a particular college has. You have to know that because it may not be something that we require for graduation. So colleges are going to be looking for your transcript. They need to know what your grades are. They need to know what your history is. They're usually going to want an SAT or ACT score. Those that are test optional, you can actually see a list of those at the website fairtest.org. Not everybody requires the test. But that could be a factor. And then 2 years of the same world language, and then math beyond Algebra 2, which everybody has to have that to graduate anyway. So that's something that most everybody has no problem. So, but if we're talking about holistic admission or talking about competitive admission, that's when we start looking at more in-depth information about a student. So this is where the college might be asking you to write essays. They may want that resume that you have created. They may ask you to do auditions or present art portfolios if you're looking at a fine arts program. This is where letters of recommendation can come in, interviews can come in. So, but not every college is going to require these holistic factors. Some do, the competitive colleges will, but a lot of schools actually, even in the state of Georgia, are not even going to be asking for a lot of this information. So it's up to you to know what the college is going to be looking for. Okay, so that's part of what we want you to be doing in your application process and your college search process, is seeing what is required. So I do want to talk a little bit about the GPAs. I've kind of referenced that a little bit when you're doing some research on a college website. And you start looking to say, well, how do I compare with the typical student who goes to this college and gets in? How do you know if you're competitive or not? So you need to understand when a college has GPAs listed on their website, it is their calculation. It is not the Pope calculation at all. It's usually very different. Okay, they are going to be listing averages, minimums, or the middle 50% ranges of their calculation. And the reason it's not the same as ours is because there are thousands and thousands of high schools across the nation, and they all calculate GPA differently. You would be surprised. We have people who come from all over the country, and we get transcripts from those schools, and we even have to figure out what in the world kind of GPA are they looking at here? How do they calculate GPA? And so colleges have to standardize and do one that's the same for everybody. So they're usually going to calculate a core or an academic GPA. That's the most common. And when we think core academic GPAs here at Pope, we're usually thinking English, math, science, social studies, foreign language, right? But some colleges want to throw in a fine art there. Some colleges want to throw in a computer science class. Not every college just uses those categories. Some may say, well, we require 3 social studies, well, you've taken 4 possibly. Maybe if you've taken 4, they may take the top 3 grades, you know, so they may not use all of the grades there. So there's a lot of factors that you need to be looking at. And these are questions to ask college recruiters. These are fantastic things to look for on their website if you can't figure it out, because you want to get a good sense of what your GPA might be there. To know whether it's a good fit for you. So for example, UGA only gives AP classes they only give a full weight. For AP classes only. They don't give weight for honors or dual enrollment. Other Georgia colleges don't give weight for anything. They just do a straight unweighted core GPA. University of South Carolina gives weight for honors, for AP, for dual enrollment. They get the same weight. Okay, so that's why it's so important to understand that. Okay, so just to drive the point home just a little bit more, here is an example of the top of the Pope transcript, and you'll see it says cumulative weighted GPA and cumulative unweighted GPA. Cumulative means everything, right? Not core. So neither GPA on the Pope transcript is going to be a core GPA, all right? Please tell your parents this. I think a lot of times parents misunderstand this. They're the ones who we get the most questions from. So please help them to understand that what's on the transcript is not the same as the college, okay? It's not the Hope GPA either, okay? So neither GPA on your transcript is a core GPA. We're going to blink it for emphasis. All right, so I'm just going to pause here for a minute. Those of you who have come in and have not signed in, here's the link. The link is in the chat. Make sure you have signed in so we have record that you're here. So take a look at the chat. I'm going to keep on going, but I just wanted to make sure that I have mentioned that. All right, so how do you learn about colleges? So there are a lot of internet tools you can use, Naviance being one of them. Naviance is a fantastic website that you can, or a fantastic program that you can use to search for colleges. There's CapEx, there's Big Future, there's College Navigator, College Scorecard. There are a lot of them available. And in fact, if you go to the resources in CTLS in the junior classroom that we've created for you, there's a link to our college and career planning toolkit, I think, and we have a bunch of different search tools available there for you to look at, including, there's a lot of really good stuff in there, including some information about college fairs, questions to ask while you're at a college fair, some organizational tools to help you kind of keep up with the colleges that you're exploring. And we are having college information sessions at Pope. We actually have several today. Did anybody, let me see, show of hands. I only have a few videos, but who went to a college session today? Did anybody go to a college session? Nobody that I'm seeing? Okay, so pay attention to that. If you go into Naviance, you can see college visits that we are hosting, and this is a fantastic way for you to learn about colleges. It's a great way to meet the representative that is probably going to be the one to read your application when you apply to that college. So these representatives are usually regional, and they usually get to know the students in the area. So this is a great way for you to get to know them. Ask them that question about GPA. You know, so come to these virtual college sessions. Watch Naviance. I think we've sent some emails out. So take a look at some of those and try visiting with some colleges you may not have heard about. Again, let's open our minds to schools other than what you have only ever heard about. Okay, tour colleges. I know touring is a little weird right now because of COVID, but there are many virtual tours and you can go online. A lot of those are available virtually. You can check those out. The college websites have fantastic information. They've really beefed them up a lot because of COVID. So you should be able to find just about anything you would want to find on the college website. Don't just look just at the general information, but look at the majors, look at the clubs and activities they have, look at athletics, look at, you know, housing opportunities. There's so much there and so much rich information for you to find on college websites. And then of course, you're going to want to compare your academic profile to the school's profile and decide how good of a fit that school is for you. So just briefly about the college application process. So this is something you do your senior year. I think sometimes people get a little confused and they think that it starts junior year. Junior year is the year to research and gather your information. You can actually start your Common Application. You can start some of those applications through Common Application, Coalition Application. There are some platforms where you can get that going, but you will not submit those applications until your senior year, until you become a senior next fall in August, September, or whenever it is you decide to apply. The school's applications are going to be available there along with the requirements. So Every school is going to have an application you're going to fill out, and you have to pay a fee to submit that. If you are on free and reduced lunch, you can get those fees waived. So see your counselor about that if you qualify. You're going to have to send an official transcript. For most colleges, there are some schools that will ask you to self-report your grades. You have to type them in yourself. But a lot of schools are going to ask for an official transcript. A lot of them are going to ask for test scores, SAT or ACT, and you need to have those sent directly from ACT or College Board. Counselors don't send those. We don't put them on the transcript. They can't pull them from Naviance or anything like that. You can't send them yourself. Some of them will let you self-report. I will stop and say that. Some schools will allow you to tell them your scores, and if you get admitted, then you have to send them officially so they can confirm those. But that's going to be your responsibility to do that. So essays and recommendations, those are only if required by the college. Again, that's research that you need to do for yourself and see if that's required. The big thing is to make sure that you're following the college's directions, and don't send it if they don't ask for it. Don't send recommendations and essays and things to colleges if they don't ask for it, because they're not going to look at them. And you're wasting either your time or somebody else's time. And you've got other things to do. You've got better things to do. We want to make sure that you're doing what you need to do for that college. So not all colleges are going to require essays or rec letters. So keep that in mind. And then no deadlines. They're going to be firm. You don't want to miss these. You don't want to get behind. You don't want to do things at the last minute. You want to make sure that you're on the, really focused on getting your stuff in as you should. So let's talk about those deadlines a little bit more. You're going to hear a term possibly rolling admissions. Rolling admissions schools are those types of schools who roll out the admissions decisions as applications come in. So it's a continuous process. So let's say you apply in August, you may hear in a couple weeks the result. Your friend may apply in September and they may hear the first week of October. So as the applications come in, they just go ahead and just give answers immediately as soon as they get things processed, okay? They will continue to roll out those decisions until they have filled their freshman class. Typically, these are going to be schools that are going to not be as competitive, which means they're not having to wade through, read a bunch of essays, read recommendation letters, look at all these extra holistic things. Usually they're looking, do you meet the minimum? If you meet the minimum, you're in, okay? So that's rolling. Regular decision is kind of your typical application deadline. Let's say you have a deadline of January 1st. That means everything has to be in by January 1st, and then this college will let everyone who applied by that date know on a specific date, maybe March the 1st. That's when everybody finds out. That's a regular decision. Early action is kind of similar to regular decision, except it's earlier in the school year. It is usually October, November, December. So you apply earlier. It's usually the same criteria. You apply by a date and you hear by a date. And it just gives you the ability to apply earlier to a school and go ahead and get an answer and be able to move on and get some colleges under your belt. Right. There's something you may hear if you're looking at some of the more competitive private schools called single choice or restricted early action. And they say that you can only apply to one school early action, but it's not a binding decision. It's basically giving you the ability to say, you are my first choice college and I really want to go there. But if you get admitted, you aren't committed to go. Okay. That's different than the next category of early decision. Early decision is the one where you apply early. You can only apply to one early decision school ever, not ever, at that particular moment. And if you get admitted, you are committing to go to that college up front before you even know anything about any of the other colleges. This is going to be your first top choice. You know that you've explored the financial aid aspect. You know you can pay for it. You have your parent support. You also have to get the counselor to sign off on this, but early decision is a big deal. But it does let the college know you are my first choice and I will come to your university if I get accepted. So that's just something just to be aware of. So if you get accepted to a early decision school, you have to withdraw your applications from all the other schools. Priority deadlines are usually referring to either scholarships, maybe if you get your application in by November 1st, priority deadline, then we'll consider you for these prestigious scholarships. So that's just another deadline terminology you may hear, and it may be different than the admission deadline. So so hopefully that kind of helps give you some good vocabulary as you're starting to do college applications and starting to research. So SAT and ACT, I'm not going to go in depth about the differences between these two because you guys can go back and look at this later and look at this chart. But colleges are going to accept both of these equally. SAT and ACT. I challenge everybody every year, find me a college that does not accept both the SAT and the ACT, and I'll do something. I'll give you a prize or something. I don't know, but I haven't. If you can find me one, I would love to see that college. But anyway, you have to register for these yourself. I would encourage you to register for these. I'm going to talk a little bit about COVID in a minute, but we encourage you to do them your junior year. They do have a fee associated with them. They're around $50-ish right now, but there are fee waivers again, just like with college applications, there are some fee waivers for students on free and reduced lunch. So again, see your counselor if you think you qualify, and we will help you with that. So when should you take the SAT or ACT? Close to the end of or after taking Algebra 2. So for a lot of our students, it's going to be the spring of your junior year. So March, April, May are very popular times to take the SAT or ACT. If you've already completed Algebra 2, you could go ahead and start testing now. Obviously, we're going to be doing the PSAT next week. If you didn't sign up for the PSAT and you would like to get a test booklet, we do have some of those available in the front office, just outside. If you just pop over and you just walk in the door, there's boxes there. You can just grab one. But it's just it's a free practice test that you can actually take home and practice with if you want to, if you're happen to be around and want to pop over and grab one of those. I would encourage you to take both the SAT and the ACT, or at least do a diagnostic test to help you figure out which one is going to be the better fit. And then focus your energies and your test prep on whichever test seems to be the better fit for you. And make sure that you're planning ahead to meet those application deadlines, like we mentioned before, because if you're applying in October, you need to make sure that you are testing well enough, early enough, so that your test scores come back in time for that October deadline. So just keep those kind of things in mind. So let's talk COVID-19 a little bit, because really COVID-19 has impacted testing more than anything else. And in fact, the senior class, the class of 2021, so the current seniors, they are seeing that a lot of their colleges are actually admitting students test optional. Many, many, many colleges have gone test optional this year because so many testing centers have been canceled. They've closed down. Some of you may have even been affected by this, and it's been difficult for them to reschedule their tests to take an SAT or ACT. So including all the public colleges here in Georgia, they have gone test optional, but we do not know if that will continue for you guys. Okay, so to be safe and to make sure that you have everything you need, we definitely encourage you guys to be taking the SAT and ACT to make sure that you have what you need to be able to do your applications for the following year. We just really don't know how things are going to continue. So just try to get those tests in. Competitive colleges have said over and over again, we know that you guys are being affected by COVID. They are very aware. They have their own children. They have their own families that are being affected. So when they're looking at information, they're going to realize this. And some things that you may want to bring out in your applications are things like, what have you been doing with your time? You know, you were home last spring. Was there something that you typically would be doing that you ended up not doing, and you found something different to do? Maybe you ended up not being able to participate in your sport, but you found that you love cooking. You know, are there things that you have discovered about yourself? How have you grown? They also would want to know if you've had any significant barriers, extenuating circumstances that have come about because of COVID. That would be something to talk about, things that would have significantly impacted you. One thing to be careful about is you don't want to complain. You know, don't spend the time talking about, oh, I was going to do this and COVID ruined everything. You know, don't do that, because you want to be positive. Okay. Think of ways you've turned your experience into an opportunity. How are you different? You know, you could talk about those things very briefly, but really talk about the good and maybe how you've grown and changed. And also realize if you are applying to colleges that have essays. You don't have to write about COVID. Don't feel like that's a topic that you absolutely have to talk about unless you can turn it into a good essay and it really gives them a lot of really good information about yourself. So other tests you may need, I've already talked a little bit about AccuPlacer. It's a placement exam that you could do at 2-year technical colleges. You actually take those at the college. ASVAB, I've talked about that. SAT subject tests are something that they're kind of fading away, but sometimes the more competitive colleges may want you to take these as well. It just gives them a little bit more of a snapshot into a couple of specific subjects. So a subject test would be like they have them for math, they have them for U.S. history, they have them for different subjects. So a good time to take a subject test is right after you've completed a particular subject on school. So just be aware of schools that might mention subject tests. So it's your job to kind of do that and know what might be required. I'm going to shift gears just for a minute here. Since we're talking about testing, it usually applies a lot for students who might want to do dual enrollment. And the reason I talk about it kind of in the testing section is because dual enrollment would need you would probably need to be testing in the fall, like right now. So dual enrollment gives you the chance to take college classes while you're still in high school. We have about 60 students right now who are currently dually enrolled at Kennesaw State, Chat Tech, Georgia Tech. And it pays for your tuition, it pays for 100% tuition, it pays for your books, for the required books, and it pays for your mandatory fees. So it's a fantastic deal for students who might be interested. You can get funding for up to 30 hours, which is roughly about 10 courses, and that would equate to about a year's worth of courses. So if you're looking for a way to pay for some of your college classes, this is a great way. The classes can count for both high school and college credit. And you can take core classes, English, Math, Science, Social Studies, and some of the career tech classes. Dual enrollment's available for students to do it fall and spring. So usually if you're doing dual enrollment, you'll do it for the whole school year. You can also do dual enrollment in the summer. And I think that's something that students don't always know, but you can do dual enrollment in the summer. And we sometimes will have some students take advantage of that, even if they don't continue it during the school year. So if you're interested in dual enrollment, this is our dual enrollment webpage, and it is required that you watch the dual enrollment videos. There's a checklist of steps that you need to follow to make sure you apply for DE. And the deadline to complete all the steps is March the 1st. So it's really important to make sure that you are mindful of that and get it all done by March the 1st because we want to make sure that everything's in place. The whole point is that we want you to be admitted into that college so that you can get first dibs on college classes. And so watch those videos. I'm actually the dual enrollment coordinator, so you would hear from me again, but it's a lot of really, really good information, and it gives you what you need to know for dual enrollment. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about building a list. So when you are thinking about building a list and you go to some of these websites, maybe the Naviance website or CapEx or Big Future, they're going to ask you all these questions. What is important to you? What are the main factors that you're looking for in a college? And you're going to be answering all these questions, and it's going to give you a list of schools, okay, based on what you think is important. But one of the most important pieces is going to be your academic profile and how well you fit academically with that particular college. So I've kind of referenced this a little bit in this presentation already. So by this, we're talking about your SAT, your ACT, your GPA, and you're going to be comparing that with the freshman profile of the particular college, the current freshmen, the ones who just got in. How do you fit with those applicants? So we like to talk about this bell curve here. You've got reach schools, good fit schools, and safety schools. So schools where you would fall in the reach category, these are going to be those dream schools. These are going to be schools that you are in the bottom 25% or lower than average of the typical applicant. And so these are also going to be those super highly competitive colleges that are going to be reach schools for everybody. Talking the Ivy League schools, Stanford, MIT, Duke, Vanderbilt, these are going to be Emory. These are going to be reach schools for everybody because they don't just look at those academics by any means. I mean, those are kind of assumed. They really go into the holistic details very deeply. And so those are never going to be a guarantee for just about anybody, okay? So just make sure that you're categorizing those and really being realistic about maybe the percentage of people who get into those colleges. Be very aware of that. Okay. Good fit schools. This is where you need to spend the bulk of your attention. We want you to apply to schools that are going to be good fits for you, where you are in the middle 50% range. These are going to be the good academic fits for you. So you're not going to feel overwhelmed at these particular colleges. It's going to be, you're going to be with peers that are like-minded. And then there are going to be the safety schools. Some people don't like to use that term. I like to call them confident choices. These are schools that you know you'll be able to get into, or you feel pretty confident that you should be able to get into. And you're going to be in the upper range of the averages for that particular college. Now, a little hint here, these are the schools that are going to want to throw money at you, okay? These are the schools that really want you because you're going to be in the upper range. And they love to have students in the upper range because it helps raise their averages. You would be a very desirable candidate. So some other things to think about. I want you to be realistic, but don't underestimate yourself. So apply to some REACH schools, but make sure you balance it out with some schools in the other categories, okay? And also keep in mind that a REACH school might be because of cost. Okay, some people think only REACH schools are just because of academics, but you need to have these conversations with your parents and find out, okay, well, if I get into these REACH schools, can we pay for them? And that conversation needs to happen earlier rather than later. The last thing that you want to have happen is have your heart broken because you got into this fantastic school that you love and it's perfect for you, but your parents come along and say, we just can't pay for that. Have these realistic conversations. You need to know, and you need to be realistic about that. Again, I said this just a minute ago, colleges are usually going to be awarding those scholarships to students in the higher percentages. The top 20% or higher. If you're looking for a lot of money and looking for great deals in schools that are going to really treat you really nice and do a lot of cool things for you, admit you into their honors programs, look for schools that you might be in the upper ranges. We recommend that you have at least one public in-state good fit school. So one Georgia college that is a public school that is a great fit for you. Have at least one of them. This year with COVID, you know, crazy things happen this year, and this is a perfect example of how you never know what could happen. In the past, I've talked about, well, somebody could get sick or whatnot. I mean, COVID, okay, this is huge. So you never know, and it's always good to have at least one option like that. Make sure you're focusing on good fit schools that you love. Don't just put a school down just because you feel like you have to, but really do your research and make sure that that good fit school is one that you like, and also make sure that your confident choice school or your safety school is one that you love. Again, don't just put down something just because you have to, but research that just as much as you're going to be researching that REACH school. So let's talk about paying for college, and I'm really not going to go in too great a depth on this, just kind of touch on it because we are going to be doing a financial aid night where it's going to be talked about a whole lot greater depth than what I could ever possibly give you. But let's just talk about it a little bit. So sources such as family savings and out-of-pocket. So this is where 529 plans come into play, maybe just college savings accounts, money that has been put aside or money that you're earning. Grants are referring to money that is, it's money that does not have to be repaid, but it's usually based on your financial need. Scholarships are going to be money that you're awarded based on a talent, based on achievement, based on something wonderful that you've done, a competition. It's also money that does not have to be repaid. You have to seek that out. You have to seek scholarships out. Loans, you have to repay those, and so you have to be very careful. You know, if a college costs this amount and you can only afford this amount, you got to make up the difference somehow. And if you don't get enough scholarship money to make up the difference, that's where a lot of times people take out loans, and this is where it can become very, very tricky and very, you have to be very cautious with loans because you don't want to go in such great depth that it ends up crippling you later on down the road and keeps you from being able to do things and becoming financially solvent where you can do what you want to do as an adult. Work study programs are also based on financial need and are usually, the way that those work is the college agrees to provide you a job on campus where you earn money that you can use toward your college expenses. So scholarships, we always have a lot of questions about scholarships. So resources, really one of the best resources that we have is Naviance. And we have kids that'll contact us all the time and say, hey, I need to talk about scholarships. Can you tell me where to find them? go to Naviance, okay? There's a whole section about scholarships and financial aid in Naviance, and we keep a list of scholarships we get in the counseling office in Naviance. There's a scholarship search function in there. There are websites out there that you can do scholarship searches, like GA Futures, Big Future, FastWeb, scholarship.com. Just don't pay for anything, okay? If you're paying money for scholarship information, you don't need to. There are plenty of free opportunities out there, so you should not have to pay anything. College websites. The colleges are the biggest source of scholarship money that you could possibly get. So if you plan your college searches right, then you are going to end up finding a lot of money if you look at the right colleges. Okay, your current employer or your parent's employer. There are community scholarships. A lot of those we post in Naviance from the counseling office, organizations you're involved in. And then it's just important to just do your research and start early. Don't think you have to do them senior year or do them in March of your senior year after you know that you're going to college and you know where you've gotten admitted. Go ahead and start doing them now. If you look, you may find that there are some scholarships out there that are for juniors. There are some different competitions and things you might be able to join. There are deadlines for scholarships. Some of them come and go before you even start thinking about scholarships. That happens senior year. There are some in the fall that come and go, and by the time students start looking, they've already passed. Make sure you've made a resume, have that ready to go. And I'm not going to talk a lot about the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, but that's the application that you and your family will fill out that's looking at your family's financial situation. And that's going to be talked about a lot at the financial aid night on October 29th. More information is going to come out about that. But the FAFSA is something we would want everybody to do because colleges can award scholarship money and grant money based on that information, as well as the federal government. This is also where the federal loans originate from. You have to do the FAFSA. You may also hear of another application called the CSS profile. That's another one that you may encounter. Okay, we are right at 3, and I've got a few more slides, so I'm going to move through these kind of quick because I know you guys are ready to get going, but let's hang with me. At the end, there's a survey I need you to do, and then we'll be done. So Hope Scholarship, let's just talk about this. Hope currently is paying around 70 to 80% of tuition for students at public colleges in the state of Georgia. If you're looking at private colleges in Georgia, you also get a percentage of that. Nowhere near the tuition amount, but it's usually about the same amount you would get if you were going to a public college. You have to have a 3.0 Hope GPA, and the calculation is over there in the purple box. We've talked about different GPA calculations, and of course that GPA is going to be a different calculation. You can see that there. And then 4 rigorous courses. I'll talk about those rigorous courses in a minute. You have to keep a 3.0. If you lose it, then you can regain it one more time in college. Zell Miller is your full tuition scholarship, and it only covers tuition. You still might have room and board if you decide to live on campus. You have to have a 3.7 Hope GPA and then 4 rigorous courses as well. And you also have to have an SAT score of a 1200 or a 26 on the ACT. Currently, that is still in place. Even though COVID has kind of shaken our whole world, they are still maintaining the test scores. They've just given students the ability to be able to submit their test scores a little bit later. For that, you have to keep a 3.3 in college, and it'll drop down to regular Hope as long as you keep a 3.0. So you can find your Hope GPA at gafutures.org. You cannot find it on the transcript, right? We talked about that. There's no core GPA on the transcript, so you can only find it at GA Futures, not on your transcript. Tell your parents. Tell your parents. Okay, the rigorous courses, we're talking about courses like chemistry, physics, anatomy, just on level. Okay, second year and higher of a foreign language, Algebra 2, pre-calculus, core APs and core dual enrollment. Those are courses that are going to count for rigor for Hope. It doesn't have to be AP, it doesn't have to be dual enrollment. Most kids at Hope typically end up taking 4 of these types of courses, and you can see more on GA Futures. You can see the full list. There's a ton of other courses that count. So the grants, talked about this earlier. There's the Hope Grant. These are at the technical colleges. There is no GPA requirement for the Hope Grant, okay? No GPA. So if your GPA is not at a 3.0 right now and you're worried about paying for college and you want to go to college, you could start at Chattahoochee Tech. use the Hope Grant to help pay for some of your coursework and then transfer to a four-year college later. Hope Career Grant provides the opportunity to pay 100% of tuition for some high demand careers. Remember we were talking earlier about careers that we have that skills gap and we need people in different careers. If you go into any of these particular careers, you can get 100% tuition paid at a technical college in the state of Georgia. So you can go to Chat Tech and study automotive technology and they will pay your tuition. Okay, so fantastic, fantastic deal. Highly recommend students to check that out if you think you might want to do that. So let's wrap this up. We're almost done. So let's just remind ourselves, what should you be doing between now and your senior year? So focus on your career exploration. What are you going to do after high school? What kind of career might you do? Start exploring post-secondary options. So you maybe find a career. Well, how are you going to get into that career? What are you going to do to train yourself to get there? Take the SAT and ACT this year if possible. Again, with COVID, you know, it's going to make things a little challenging, but try to go ahead and get those tests done. Make sure you're checking your Hope GPA on gafutures.org. See where you stand. Go ahead and start a resume. I've mentioned that several times in Naviance. You will be so, so glad you did it if you go ahead and start a resume. Take some time to visit colleges, either in person or virtually, and make sure you're attending our virtual college sessions here at Hope. We keep a list of those in Naviance. And then just make sure you're continuing to stay involved. I know it's a little trickier now that, again, with COVID, but do that. And just make sure you're making the best grades as you possibly can. And we will be sending information out to you guys about junior advisement. We will be meeting with each student individually in junior year with you and your parents to discuss your grad requirements and post-secondary plans. So just be watching for that. It's going to come out soon. And the last thing that I need for you guys to do, you guys have held on with me. I need you to do an assignment, okay? Very, very last thing. Hopefully you guys still have Naviance pulled up. Pull that up, and I need you to click on My Planner. And then from My Planner, you're going to click on Tasks. And you need to complete the task that is the 11th grade Bridge Law Survey, okay? And once you see that, you're going to see, take the survey on the right-hand side of the screen. Look for that crazy pink triangle. It's going to be little, and then there's a link that says, take this survey. I need you all to take that survey. It literally takes like 2 or 3 minutes to do the survey. Before you log off, everybody go ahead and do this, take the survey, and then we will be done. And I'm going to leave you with one little quote. I'll go back to the page in just a second, but plan for the future because that is where you're going to spend the rest of your life, by Mark Twain. Okay, so take care of that. We're glad that you guys were here with us today. We appreciate it. Let us know what questions you have. Put things in the chat. Have discussions with us in the discussion board. Reach out to your counselor. We'd love to talk to you. We are so glad that you guys came. And y'all are free to go once you finish your survey. So thanks for coming, guys.